Hello, kia ora. My name is Roger Lusby and I am pleased to bring you a lineup of poets from Nelson for the National Poetry Day. This online show is hosted by the Nelson Library and we're very grateful to the staff for arranging this event. Poetry is a favoured way of writing for many poets in Nelson, and we have a live poets gathering once a month in Nelson and Mapua. Keep an eye in your local paper in the What's On column for dates and details. I'm going to introduce you to 6 poets, including myself, on this online viewing, and I hope you enjoy the poems and thank you for watching. Our first guest is Galen Pound. She is a Nelson poet who is a great supporter of live poetry in Nelson. She has written very many good poems and one never knows where she is going to go with them. This is one she has selected from her library for you to enjoy.
Rain by Honi Tafare. I can hear you making small holes in the silence, rain. If I were deaf, the pores of my skin would open to you and shut. And I should know you by the look of you if I were blind. The steady drum roll sound you make when the wind drops. The something special smell of you when the sun cakes the ground. But if I should not hear, smell, or feel, or see you, you would still define me, disperse me, wash over me, rain.
I was born in Roxburgh in central Otago and was privileged to have a wonderful start in this most beautiful part of New Zealand. I was trained as a motor mechanic and I loved my time fixing cars, which I still do as a necessary hobby. This poem relates to a much later stage in my life when I managed to replace an old car that I wished I had never sold.
My father had a 1928 Model A Ford he converted into a truck to bring the fruit into our packing shed on our orchard at Roxburgh in central Otago. After it had broken down one day, and since he'd bought a tractor for the job, he gave the Model A to me. I managed to get it going and spent many happy hours driving in the hills of the Old Man Range up behind our orchard. I sold my A to the local dentist, Royce Service, when I moved away from Roxburgh, and I often wished I had it back. One day I bought another, a Roadster. I had it for 21 years, and then the son of the previous owner phoned me to say that they'd made a mistake and could they have it back again. I said they could have it back if I could find a Chrysler Roadster to replace it. And then one day it all happened, bringing on this little poem. Walter. I traded the A for a Chrysler, a Roadster that's painted dark red. For Chryslers rule, they're more handsome and cool than Model A's are, it's been said. But Henry Ford knew about power, 3,300 cc's. He had better room in the dicky seat too for passengers and their knees. Henry was good on a muster too when climbing a slippery track. His chassis would move to the feel of the groove and get you to there and then back. But Walter the Chrysler was different, more sleek if you know what I mean. Although he could climb in the dry he was fine, but the wet was a different scene. Walter was made for the city life where streets are sealed with tar. His tyres are white, his chromework is bright, a bit like an Al Capone car. I loved the throb of the inline four as it rattled along the road, but the purr and the whine of the Chrysler's fine when I have a more delicate load. I like to go cruising round town in a car that is very old. It makes me feel good when I fold down the hood, and sometimes when I am bold, I pull up and say to the ladies, there's room in the front for two. If you hop inside, we'll go for a ride, and I'll show you what Walter can do. Now, some of them like my suggestion. They hop in the front and say, go. Take me away. I'm not busy today. It's years since I've done this, you know. And when we return, they all thank me. They tell me they've had a great time. They liked going fast just like in the past, when they were young in their prime. Now, some of you might have a question about where the story will go. If some of you thought, well, I'm not that sort. It's Walter the car, don't you know? They're all in love with my Walter. It's got nothing to do with me. And most of them are as old as the car, and that's going on 83.
Peter O'Halloran is a Mapur man and very involved in the community, running things like the annual Pecha Kucha show. Peter is also a poet and enjoys putting pen to paper, especially during lockdown.
Here's a COVID-19 announcement. COVID-19, you're not my friend. Don't want to hear your name again. Silent playgrounds, silent streets, no sidewalk cafes, just empty seats. No more graffiti on toilet walls. The only sound there, tui calls. I stroll a deserted seaside haven and lift my eyes towards heaven. The sky above's never been bluer. The oceans never seemed greener. Floating clouds were never whiter, and autumn colours never brighter. Birdsong never sounded more musical. I'm so glad that I don't live in a cubicle. Scent of trees never smelt sweeter, but now I buy sanitizer by the litre. No bus, no train, no ship nor plane, but I think I hear a guitar strain. Is that sound a lonely dog barking? Or is it just a neighbour farting? I'm walking down a lonely street, and is that crunching just my feet? The only sound now is silence. I suppose that's the sound of a virus.
Dylan Mackey has decided he wants a home, not an ordinary home. He wants a mushroom with a view. Maybe it's more affordable, but it certainly has all that is required in the best of every way.
Kia ora. This is a mushroom with a view. A sight unseen, not far from here, a pūkeko's hop or two, slung under the loquat tree. Small field critters gather around Mr. Mantis Donahue. Here he talks, from a harefoot stump, to his audience attentive, sat on chairs on rumps. Hawking loudly, pitching strong and true, the lofty lives possible in a mushroom with a view. How in a mere this fungus stands, as king among the land, rubber floors for the kids, and as many rooms as you are flat. Good prospects too, for this one's yet to bulge. Yes, in retirement too, more joys will this home divulge. Invite your friends to the rising brim, half a day to walk around it. Safe and high, moistened too. Wouldn't you want a mushroom with a view? It's even the type to bring young, sweet graces as they peer brightly over with sky-spanning faces. yet only to wonder and never to prod. We don't give insurance for acts of God. Undisturbed by giants and landmark for many, now going for a bargain to someone so canny. Here among the seated, minds were stirred and hearts were whispered to. What would be if mushroom were mine? On bidding start, clap from sides, hands fled, reaching up to touch the dream. Mushroom, be mine, they pled. But as all things go, there's limits on all. As the price climbed higher, in 2s, 3s, and 1s, each hand falls. Now all are ordered from poor to first. Who gets the mushroom but Miss Carmeline burst? Seat creaks hither as her gland does swell, tipping apart her neighbours, their world angled now. Well, I never, oh just what luck, such a grand space for nephew to play his truck, the gold cap so fetching, glittering on me new. Oh, I always wanted a mushroom with a view. At that she burst, just into tears, we think, big soggy spurts, and her neighbours eased back. It'll be so good for me, I'll feel so new, my own little palace, a mushroom with a view.
Rebecca Myers is a person who has been involved with the Nelson Live Poets to do the mail-outs and promotion needed to keep all informed about our gatherings. We were both invited to perform for the Fringe Festival last year, but due to COVID-19, that had to become a virtual show as well. And this was one of Rebecca's poems that she recorded for that event. I don't think she had any regrets, really. Indeed. And Rebecca's going to start off with a poem for you, and she'll tell you all about it.
Here we go. Okay, so first poem that I am going to share with you guys this evening is one called Regret. She thought she'd only use that word for things she hadn't done, for chances missed, for lips unkissed, for places never gone. She thought that choosing fun would mean she'd never have to suffer. If she binged on each experience the world had got to offer her, she needn't know of guilt or pain or shame or of self-loathing. In time, she'd learn her fun was fear, dressed up in different clothing. She hungered for the feel-good things, cheap thrills to deepest bliss. Insatiable excitement drew her close to the abyss. She so despised the thought of living life full of what-ifs that countless times she'd had to stop herself from jumping off a cliff or boat or moving car or train or bridge or wall, simply just to know what thoughts would fill her head along the fall. Would she be calm and quiet as the wind screamed past her ears? Would the fleeting rush of flying be worth friends' and family's tears? Would all the stress and chaos of the world just melt away? Or would she dive and realise her grave mistake too late? With intrigue, not morbidity, she often thought these thoughts. The urge to know and consequences battled back and forth. Imagine her surprise one day she did fall through the sky. She'd stepped too far, and now the edge was nowhere in her sight. She felt her stomach flip, then stop. Confused, she looked around. She'd fallen from esteem, not height, feet firmly on the ground. And much as it astounded her, now nothing mattered much. She'd crushed the one who held her heart. All fun had lost its blush. No way to rewind or press restart. She had to own it, carry on and face it. No way to erase it now, and no amount of crying kept regret from multiplying. Till with nowhere left to hide, and void of vanity or pride, she realised there was no reason he should stay beside her. On one hand, she felt glad. Beneath the sadness was a relief. Though things might never be the same, she'd take her blame, and this might make him plainly see she'd never quite deserved him in the first place. At least, at last, the fact was, now he'd know she wasn't perfect.
Christina Jensen, who is a freelance food and garden writer, uses the nom de plume poet afloat and wants us all to share a wave.
Everybody wave. Whirling winged paradise ducks surfing up high, laughing leaping leaves playing catch me if you can, fluttering flax fingers pointing, over there, no, over there. Cabbage tree kerfuffle, arche afro tussled in turmoil, toy twisting, turning tango, whipping and thrashing the invisible foe, winding you up, disturb and ruffle you. Compose yourself in the lull. Bow down. How low can you go? Everybody wave. Hello. Everybody wave. Goodbye.
Okay, well that was our poetry show for you, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to leave you now with one of my poems that some of you might relate to. I guess most of us as we get older have to go under the knife for something to be changed or to be upgraded. And this particular poem relates to that experience. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've had a really great National Poetry Day. Cheers.
How many people here are bionic?
Yes. Yeah.
Look at that. And how many people are not prepared to admit they're bionic? You see, New Zealanders are under stress. The hospitals are full of people getting older, all looking for a pill. One to make them better and ease away the pain from hips and knees and floppy bits. And make them work again. The problem isn't simple, or so the doctor said, and everybody knows that in the hospital a bed is very hard to come by, so we had to change the way our health was managed and our bits get rearranged. So a move in Parliament was made to speed things up and help the surgeon's workload that was causing such a glut of people lining up for joints and surgery as well. Inflated by intolerance of pain caused by the swell of promises all made by politicians who campaigned on making changes because they wanted to slow down immigration and stop the surgeons who were coming in from overseas. And something else they'd do was form a coalition with the Greens who wanted more changes made to legalise the marijuana law. So the Labour Party, to attract a younger vote, investigated legally what constituted smoke. Police were called into the halls of fame to undertake amendment to the laws of what would constitute a bake. And to help the old folks who were booked for spinal fusion, they scheduled realignment to streamline execution of the public hospitals and ways of mass production for hip replacement surgery and pain eradication. So they got an engineer to modify the system where police burnt cannabis post of prosecution, and using ingenuity through systems feeding air, they sent the smoke into the vents the hospitals were sharing. The surgeons formed a queue with tools for fixing hips. The patients were lined head to toe to get their needed bits. First row, hip replacements, left legs to go first, right one next, then knee joints, and people with the worst elbows, shoulders, wrists and spines were added to the list. It all looked quite in order, so police fires were then lit. Everything was quiet as the smoke came drifting in. The patients breathed it out. The surgeons breathed it in. A chuckle was beginning to be heard around the room. A surgeon lifted up his saw and peered into the gloom. "Let's take the legs off first," he said, "and put them in a line, then connect the new joints to them. That should save us time." The surgeons started laughing. The patients felt no pain. You could say they were legless, but that would just be lame. Recovery was as rapid as the patients came to. The surgeons got them moving, getting them to do simple exercises to help them to recover, but some were having trouble walking into one another. It seems that some had legs on that were not their legs at all. Some were far too short and some were far too tall. One bloke had 2 right legs and another had 2 left, and one girl had one fitted that left her most bereft. She said her lovely shapely leg had gone all fat and hairy. The bloke that got her old one said it really was quite scary. It wanted to go dancing, cavorting round the town. All his mates just wanted to stroke it up and down. That's right. A farmer in from Southland said his new leg was a beaut, but he said it came from Auckland and would not go in his ute. A migrant from the USA had managed to get fitted with 2 legs pointing backwards. The surgeons then admitted they thought he would appreciate reversing what he'd done when he voted for a president that made the world so glum. A leg that trained in racing cars was fitted to someone that found that Sunday driving became a lot more fun. His new leg found the throttle and wouldn't let him stop, just get pushing harder, so he told the cop, who clocked him at 100 in the 50 kp zone. They took away his licence and made him walk back home, but he just walked in circles with no control at all. Things got worse on Saturday at the local hall. That was where musicians held a country dance, and all the fettered folkies went to try and find romance. They all lined up in circles and someone played a tune, and to a well-known caller they danced around the room. Put your left foot forward, said the dance, and 50 wanton hip joints all started doing bucks. Do-si-do your partner, he cried, but all in vain. His legs became contorted when he cried out, left again. A pensioner with one leg that was made for rock and roll broke into a new rhythm that was meant for King Creole. A sexy jerk and hip swing that it had just created with forward thrusting backflip became so dislocated the leg just like a chopper tried to strip the willow, causing so much havoc that it flattened one poor fellow. Then the music changed, but the joints all took control, bumped and ground and did the splits, reinventing soul. The caller yelled, but all in vain. Now step out to the right, as jointly the bionics all sashayed into the night. The waltz became a mosh pit when the caller tried to rap. The foxtrot and gay Gordons couldn't cope with that. The bird dance and the polka didn't have a chance, because all the joints they knew they'd created a new dance. Free from pain and mobile, they all stepped in a line, and with the band now pumping and everyone in time, the new joints knew they'd done it, and now they couldn't stop. The new dance they'd created that we now call hip-hop.